And I used to say, you know, you should support the community that supports you. You should pay the taxes in the country where you want to live. And I was staunch on that up until about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 months ago, the political world changed.
The easiest place to get set up at the minute is Dubai. If you look at places like Monaco, Malta, Cyprus, it's a little bit more, especially Monaco. It's very difficult to get set up in Monaco. You need £500,000 liquid in the bank. You've got to go for interviews. There's a very long, drawn-out process to get set up in Monaco.
500,000 millionaires and billionaires will leave the UK in this political term, so before the end of 2028. 500,000. And that's going to take all the tax that's being paid, the bulk of it, away from the UK.
Charlie Mullins, and he was fundamentally he's happy to pay his taxes, but there was a tipping point where you don't get anything. You're happy to a point. You're proud of the UK. You want to contribute, but actually there's a point where you think, hang on a minute, I'm being taken for a ride here.
Welcome back to another episode of Success is a System. Today I'm joined by Josh Tharby of JSM Tax, and we're talking about the hot subject of would you move abroad? Should you move abroad? How hard is it to move abroad to stop this government raping your wealth or halving your wealth? Literally, we're getting to a point now where many companies are giving more of their money that their businesses make to the government than they're being able to retain for themselves. That to me feels inequitable, unfair, and it's time to talk about what we, the hard-working entrepreneurs of the UK, can do to arrest that problem. Josh, welcome. Good to see you again.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And I'm going to dive straight in first, before we get into the nitty-gritty, which I'm very excited about, understanding this tax thing, is tell us a little bit about Josh Tharby.
Yep.
You know, where did you grow up? Did you have a silver spoon? Did you go to an amazing school? What got you into accountancy, tax and all this lot? Give us a kind of couple of minute prelude to you being sat here today.
Yeah, so Joshua Tharby, so by my main trade is an accountant, chartered tax advisor. So raised, similar to where we're recording this now, Peterborough. It's where I was born and bred, so to speak. Went to school here. Was I born with a silver spoon? Absolutely not. Completely the other way around. Single parent household, free school dinners, all of that good stuff. Struggle and adversity. We've been through that. Luckily, that's kind of one thing we might touch on later is I did get a pretty good education here in the UK, and that was completely free. Aside from the university side, when you had to self-fund and work to get me through university. But yeah, realistically, born and raised in Peterborough, started my own accountancy business 6 years ago now, just over.
Mind if I ask how old you were when you started?
Yes, I would have been 23.
So was you newly qualified at that point?
Yeah, literally just as soon as I could legally start an accountancy firm, I did it.
So where did that come from? Because most people think, when I've got myself established in a job, or when I've had the training of a corporate, or when I feel secure, I'll do my own business. What were you always intent on doing your own business? Where did that come from? Yeah. And what gave you the courage to make that leap that most people are too fucking scared to make, really?
Yeah, so 100% always interested in starting my own business. When I was a child, I used to buy and sell computers. So I was kind of 15, 16 years old, off eBay, finding wholesalers for getting 20, 30 computers delivered from kind of NHS, putting copies of Windows on them and selling them in the Friday ads. With a copy of Windows, a keyboard, mouse, and a thing as a little package. So I've always been very entrepreneurial, and it got to the stage where my mum said, actually, you need a skill. And I go, well, what do I do? Should I become a plumber? I almost became a plumber. So it kind of thought, okay, I can't think of my own good business idea now, so let's do the second best thing. Let's learn about numbers, finance, get inside of a business, start to really understand how business works. And that kind of led me down the accountancy route, doing a qualification at college and then going to university to study it further. And then kind of really I always wanted my own business. So I kind of, when I look through kind of the goals that I've written down in notepads from 10 years ago that I still keep, it's okay, work for 3 years, get the experience, and then quit my job and do this. And it's all this kind of things that I planned out. And that's exactly what I've done. So it was always a case of getting the experience so that I could start my business.
So there's lots in there I want to get into a little bit. I mean, firstly, you said you went to uni. Accountants can train on job. What made you go the university route as opposed to work in a job route?
I think that is, being completely honest, I just wanted a bit of fun. It's almost a case of, that's if I could do it differently, I definitely would go done the apprenticeship route. The reason for that is I literally just paid off my student loan, I think the month before last, and that was 70k cash to pay off the student loan because the interest rates on them now are so exorbitant.
Yeah, actually, it's not good value.
You need to pay that off.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, it seemed like the right thing to do. Kind of a lot of my friends were going to university at the time, so it was a good experience. But yeah, absolutely, it's if you want value for money, and I'd probably be a couple of years ahead where I am now if I'd have just gone straight for the apprenticeship.
Well done, well done. Well, and on that, the bit that stuck out as you were saying it is, I wanted to learn about the numbers and the money and the finance and that. And actually, having been mentoring for 20 years now and full-time mentoring since 2012, lots of businesses, many one-to-many and 40 or 50 at a time one-to-one. The bit that most fucking fail on is the numbers.
Yeah.
I'll say, what's your turnover? I'm not sure, I haven't seen the accountant. Or, okay, how much money are you making? What's your profit?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Well, fuck me, where are we? Here we are in September, and many don't even know where they were for last year.
Yeah.
They got to file those accounts.
Yeah, they've got a tax bill coming next week.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't understand the numbers. And listen, I hated numbers as well, but I've learned to love them.
Yeah.
Because the numbers never lie. And I could think I've got a great business and then find out it's all going to shit because I haven't been tracking those costs, aware of those margins, understanding the difference between margin and markup and so on. So, if you, coming that route, and obviously you now do the accounts and your tax advice and everything for many businesses, what would you say was the basic financial acumen, understanding tools that most businesses would benefit from having? If they learned nothing else, what would be the three things?
It'd almost just be understanding accounts. So actually fundamentally a profit and loss. What does that look like? And actually understanding the importance of having a profit and loss, that's accurate. So you know exactly what you're doing. That's definitely the number one. Number two would be cash flow as well, because obviously profit shows one thing, but as you know, cash flow is completely the opposite. It could
cash kills you.
Cash kills. So actually looking at your cash flow, so you know, okay, we might be showing £100,000 profit, but that doesn't mean £100,000 profit in the bank. If you've got customers that aren't paying, if you've got debts that are due, your cash flow could be negative, and that's actually what kills businesses.
Or even worse, they look at the bank account, there's 50 grand in it, they think, I'll get a new Range Rover, not paying attention to the fact that next month we've got a VAT bill, the following month we might have this, and it's not our cash as such, we're just sitting on it for the government or something. So how far... Is it a 3 months cash flow most businesses should have, 6 months? How far would you recommend people go ahead in terms of that awareness or knowledge of what they expect the cash flow to be?
I'd say it depends on your line of business. So where you've got, especially if you've got payment terms, which you've got, if you're a large business, you've got quite difficult payment terms, usually 30, 90 days. And sometimes when you're dealing with larger businesses, your customers push that. Whereas if you've got many businesses where they've got just recurring Stripe or Go-Cardless transactions, you can say with a high degree of probability, 99% of your revenue next month is going to be collected and hit the bank. So in that case, you might be a bit more kind of less risk averse and do 3 months. But for most businesses, 6 months is going to be a better position to be in.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been thinking for some time now, and for another day, but maybe we should talk together about... doing a finance for non-financial managers day course, because for me, honestly, it's like Groundhog Day. I repeat that same shit every day, and I see businesses going bust with full order books but no cash, and so on. So listen, if you'd like the idea of a full day finance for non-finance managers, me and Josh doing a day training on that, give us a thumbs up or drop us a note after this podcast. But so you set up your 23 when you set up 24?
Yeah, 23,
23. You were probably half the age of most people that you were doing the accounts for. Did that cause you a problem? Was there ageism in there?
Yeah, that definitely was. Often I remember one particular instance of this where we had a client recommend us. So an existing client who had done good work for recommend us to somebody on one of these property forums or Facebook group. And they said, oh no, I don't want to work with Josh. He's far too fresh-faced. I wanted a more experienced accountant. And then that's when our client said, you know what, Josh is actually, because he's quite fresh, actually he's got fresh knowledge. He knows and he's doing whatever accountants. As you grow old, you get complacent, especially in the accountancy. You're not fresh off the textbooks. You don't know exactly all the new legislation, everything else. So actually, because Josh is fresh faced, it's actually a good opportunity because he gives a better service than a more mature accountant who just goes slow and steady, plays by HMRC's rules. But yeah, definitely, that was just one instance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was very challenging getting started, because when you want an accountant, you want someone experienced, and obviously age is an indicator of that.
It is, and I say it because I experienced exactly the same. And I was also finding, hang on, in retail, I was like a manager at 19. I'm managing these shops as a 55-year-old manager who's
Yeah.
down the golf course two or three times a week. He's a lazy bastard. He's not growing the sales.
Yeah.
I'm doing better than him because I was 19, he was 50 something and had a family. He's earning twice my salary, and I'm thinking, that ain't fucking fair. And I left some companies because of it. But people automatically assumed, yeah, but he's got a family, he's got kids. Yeah, but he's doing a shit job. He should be paid less than me if I'm doing a good job, kind of thing. So certainly age is no indicator of experience, of expertise, or of how much you can help someone. As you say, if you've got the knowledge, you know the systems, then you can help someone as much as anyone of any age.
Yeah, exactly that. And naturally, that's come through just by the perseverance coming through, growing the business successfully. So it's just about overcoming that and staying persistent, even in spite of those setbacks.
Yeah. Well, Grant Cardone says the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about broadcasting, it's about narrowcasting. Let's niche down. Where did the decision come from to go from accountancy to tax first, and then we'll talk about from tax to non-dom moves and so on?
Yeah, so the main accountancy business, when we've set that up, definitely niche down. So we worked with property investors only.
Oh,
so
right.
we only work with property investors, developers, so all full service accountancy, tax planning, all around that. And obviously you do the accountancy side of things, that's the nuts and bolts, but it's very difficult to add value there. So what clients really value and what they're willing to pay for is the tax planning side of things.
Right.
Especially tax changes come through, the buy-to-lets where interest relief restrictions. There's a lot of planning that could go around that, the incorporations into LLPs and limited companies, group structures. So it's really kind of about finding ways to solve people's tax problems.
Yeah.
And that's where the tax advice came into it, and then growing that arm of the business as well.
Okay. And that was when? So 23 years old, you set up the accountancy. When did you move into the more tax?
Probably about 2 years afterwards.
Right.
So we grew a good established accountancy business. Then off the back of that, we had clients that really needed advice. So it was either, bring in that expertise or find a way to service them ourselves. We did a little bit of both to start out with. And then after a couple of years of doing that, we really specialised in the tax planning as well.
And was that just a case of reading up on legislation, or because one of the things I talk about a lot is self-development, and every day is a school day. And, I went to a crap school and I probably didn't appreciate education properly until later in life. And then I realised it doesn't have to be a classroom academia. It's constantly, if I want to do this, who's the best at that? How can I learn about that? Where's the knowledge for that? How do I pull that into myself, kind of thing? Pardon me, did you have to get a mentor, or did you have to go on some specialist courses to learn the tax piece?
Yes, it absolutely is a mix of all of that. So the first one was literally just paying crazy high rates to work with specialists, attending days at kind of KPMG, Deloitte's, and working with the big guys and just paying whatever they wanted, so I could soak it up from these guys that had been doing it for 10 years that were top of the game, so paying their fee to work with them and absorb that knowledge. And then alongside that as well, just reading everything I could, doing extra qualifications. So the Chartered Tax Advisor qualification, which is the kind of highest level qualifications you can get in accounting and tax. Making the investment in that wasn't cheap, cost about £20,000 for that program. And then just kind of investing as much as possible in that knowledge and just getting it from wherever I could.
Do you have any kind of benchmark that says, if I was recommending myself when I was if you look back now and you met yourself at 19 and you was recommending, or you met a young entrepreneur, I mean, you're still a young entrepreneur yourself relative to me, but you met someone and you had to say, you should invest X% of your income or X amount a year in yourself. Is there a number? Is there a ratio? What would you say?
I'd say it's almost as much as if you're not where you want to be, invest as much as you can. A great mentor of mine, Alex Hormozy, he says, if you don't know how to make £1 million a year, that's not knowing how to make £1 million. It's costing you £1 million a year. So up in as much every single penny you've got to invest, you should be investing in your education until you're making £1 million a year. So
I get that, and yet I have, as you're saying it, I have so many mentees, and I've always had mentors, many of them in different skill sets as well. I say always I suppose from 14, but certainly seriously dedicated mentors the last 30 years. But so many people come to me for mentoring, and I say, right, we need to do this. Yeah, but and I'm thinking, for fuck's sake, you're on 100 grand or 3 or 4 or 500,000 and you're fucking telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Shut up and listen. You might learn something. And I know that's blunt and bare knuckle and everything else, but it's a bit like we go to the doctor and they say, if you don't lose weight, you're going to fucking die. If you don't stop smoking, you're going to fucking die. If you keep drinking like this, you're going to die. Except they don't say it quite like that. And we say, oh yeah, I know the doctor said this, but 6 pints won't hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like people just don't realise they are where they are because of their actions they take and the knowledge they have. And if they want to change something, they need to change those actions and change that knowledge. Yeah. But you know, well done on kind of realising that at an early age. And then take me then on the path that made you realise, I've had enough of the UK. Fuck it, I'm going.
So especially kind of I live in Dubai, so it's a case of Dubai is where I'm based. I went on a holiday there probably about 3, maybe 4 years ago. Literally just a holiday, didn't intend to ever live there. Then I kind of went there for the first time and thought, wow, this place is incredible. So many entrepreneurs out there, got a great buzz to the city. And then after doing that, I kind of did a bit of research and thought, okay, well, Dubai is actually tax-free. So I started looking and kind of diving down that rabbit hole a little bit more, where actually I'm in the UK, I'm paying a shed load of taxes. At the time, I was paying around, I think about 62% of the business profits that we generated in the limited company that I received personally. 62% was going over in taxes.
But most people don't realise the quantity of that. They don't add it up in VAT and corporation tax and all. They don't add it all up and work out what that ratio is.
Yeah, if it's 60, so that's 38%. It's a very small amount to be left with. Yeah. But considering the time, working 12 hours a day, growing and running a business, to be left with that little, I thought, okay, you know what, I can seriously explore. Prior to that, I'd never had any intentions of leaving the UK. Yeah. It never crossed my mind. But I can move to Dubai, save 60 or so % in taxes. It actually seems like a better place to live than the UK. Why am I not doing this? So literally within a couple of months, I'd moved.
Just like that?
Yeah, just like that. The worst thing is I literally just bought a house in the UK as well.
Right.
But I thought, I can't let this house in the UK make me stay here, continue paying taxes here. So literally just packed up my bags and moved.
So give me 3 benefits to living there, or the 3 biggest as they would be stand out for you now.
So the first one, of course, taxes. Taxes are 100% the biggest one. The second one is actually the quality of life. So we're recording this today, we're in September, absolutely chucking it down, a dark, miserable day, whereas Dubai, 35 degrees, pure sunshine. And the third one, which has really become apparent over the past couple of years, it wasn't the main factor at the time, it's just safety. The state of the UK at the minute, if you wear a Rolex, you couldn't wear this in London today. Yeah. Whereas Dubai, absolutely zero crime in most cases.
Well, I've had so many people say to me, you can't fucking wear that in London, they'll cut your fucking arm up, blah, blah, blah. And I think, you know what, let them try, because I'd fucking put up a good fight, which is probably stupid. But you're right, people are really conscious of that. And when I used to go to Dubai, we used to go 2 or 3 times a year for strategy retreats, but we would literally leave the laptop on the table by the pool and we'd go off for lunch and then we'd have a swim, and it may have been there for hours. We never even thought about the problem of it, because they don't fuck around. When people break the law over there, it's almost medieval the way they treat them, but it means there's virtually no crime.
Yeah, exactly that. It's very harsh, especially kind of loads of different offences. You see in the news people with CBD oil and small amounts of cannabis getting caught up, but ultimately it is so strict, and that's what works. As soon as you start to have a flexible policing policy, that's when things run awry, as they have done in the UK with the riots and everything else we've had.
Or even worse, a 2-tier policing policy where the colour of your skin or the religion you follow can get you let off. But if you're white stale male, you're fucked, basically.
Letting prisoners out of prison early so they can lock up some people that are in a Facebook post.
Mad, isn't it? But sad git Khan, I've got to go to court tomorrow on speeding for 24 in a 20. Oh, come on, you socialist bastards, if I can be blunt. But so anyway, you've got me distracted there. Let's get back to this. So you moved to Dubai, but it's not just Dubai, because, I loved it out there for 6 months a year. I found it a bit hot the other time, but I guess you can come back. But what other countries are places that people could consider if they were looking to move their main sort of domicile or living status.
So there's quite a few countries that are completely tax-free. Cayman Islands is a popular one. You've got a place like Jersey, Channel Islands as well. But even there's so many countries that have low taxes. So literally 1% income taxes, usually zero corporation tax as well. Malta, Cyprus, even quite a few European countries. So up until recently, Portugal gave you a tax-free status for 10 years.
They've still got some special deals.
Yeah, they've still got some special deals available. Italy, if you're a high net worth individual, you can pay just a flat rate tax of, I think it's €200,000 per year tax. That's for the ultra high net worths. Even in Spain at the minute, if you can get in on a digital nomad visa, you can pay it very, very low. I think about 7 or 8% income tax in Spain and live there as well.
And so the UK EU law things don't matter?
No, not at all. So it's there's quite a few different options in Europe for actually very, if not no taxation, but very low taxation.
Well, and also, I mean, people say, yeah, but you can't come back when you want, sort of thing. And I often give the example of Alfie. I say he comes in whenever he wants. Well, how does he do that? You can only do 90 days a year or whatever it is. Right. I say, no, you have to pass at midnight. He comes in on a jet, he gets a helicopter to his meeting, he comes in after midnight. If he leaves before midnight, it doesn't even count as a day. So actually, from Monaco, he can be in and out without ever using up a day if he doesn't pass a midnight.
Yeah, they can't count that as a day if there's more than 40 per tax year, more than 40 instances where you're not present at midnight, then they can start to actually count those days.
But if you've got 40 of those days and 90 of the other, suddenly you're thinking, actually, I'd rather be in Monaco most
How
most
often do you want to be in the UK anyway?
Well, exactly. And that changes with kids and that. But I realise now, as my kids are a bit older, a lot of the time they're living their own lives, they're out with their mates or whatever. Actually, 3 or 4 weeks a year and 5, 6, 10 weekends of quality time is better than just thinking, they're down the road, I can pop and see them, and interrupting their lives.
Yeah. That's it. Would you rather kind of just go see them for a couple of, like in an evening, have dinner together, or would you rather a week on holiday in Marbella, somewhere where it's high quality, actual time, that's outside of the UK, it's a much better quality of time, and obviously that means you're not in the UK anyway, so you're not paying taxes here.
Yeah. So we met about 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And when you moved to Dubai, I'm always bluntly honest, people can love or hate me, I thought, fucking hell, he should stay here and pay the taxes, as a UK individual. And I used to say, you should support the community that supports you. You should pay the taxes in the country where you want to live. And I was staunch on that up until about 3 months ago. Yeah. I mean, 3 months ago, the political world changed. I don't mind saying this isn't about Labour versus Tory, because I thought no one can be worse than these Tories. They've fucked the country and they'd run it into the ground. Yeah. And then suddenly we get Keir Starmer and you think, Jesus Christ, it's even worse than the worst that we were living through. Yeah. What a complete joke. And this guy is literally strangling, raping, starving the golden geese that are feeding the economy. And I saw an article in the newspaper about 3 weeks ago where the ONS were predicting that let me get this right, 500,000 millionaires and billionaires will leave the UK in this political term, so before the end of 2028. 500,000. And that's going to take all the tax that's being paid, the bulk of it, away from the UK. The poor people, or the people who are on minimum wage, they ain't going to pay any more tax because they're not paying any tax already. But the middle classes are going to get squeezed, abused and starved. Yeah. That is not fair. But for the first time ever, I thought, Jesus, I'm going to speak to Josh because I'm starting to think, why do I want to be in this country? There's a tipping point where if I'm already paying 60, 70% of my income in tax, whether that's in income tax or in tax on cars and tax on houses and tax on capital gain and tax on this, it's way up there. Yeah. But if I'm paying that's kind of not nice because I'm working harder. People say, oh, it's okay for you do this. Look at the average entrepreneur. They're working twice the hours. Yeah. No, it's a point at which it tips and I think, fuck it, I'm going there. Yeah, I'm really seriously considering.
That's exactly what we spoke about before. So I know you mentioned Charlie Mullins, and he's fundamentally said he's happy to pay his taxes, but there was a tipping point where you don't get anything. You're happy to do it at a point. You're proud of the UK. You want to contribute, but there's a point where you think, hang on a minute, I'm being taken for a ride here. And that's where so many people are reaching that point now, where they're no longer, they're not necessarily proud to be in the UK, but they're not proud of where the country is. It's continuously declining. I can't keep paying into the system because you're almost disrespecting yourself by staying here.
But so obviously Charlie and Alfie have been doing the rounds a lot on the news at the minute. Alfie Best, billionaire, Charlie Mullins. worth well over 100 million, sold his business for 146, were staunch. I mean, so go back 6 months, Alfie's doing the Gypsy Billionaire, a great British success story.
Yeah.
He loves the UK, sees it as his home, wants to support the UK, wants to help businesses in the UK, but there's a point at which they rape them and abuse them so much, they say, enough. For my own mental health and physical and financial health, I need to move. But it's not just those uber wealthy, is it? It's like there's people who are maybe just single-digit millionaires that are starting to think...
Or potentially not even millionaires. So obviously a lot of the media focuses on, okay, we've got 10,000 millionaires leaving the UK. They pay a great deal of tax. But it's actually the kind of, not necessarily middle class, but middle class up to millionaires. So say, for instance, you're a business owner making £250,000 a year, £500,000. You might not necessarily be labelled as a millionaire because you might be a consultant, coach, or somewhere where you're not necessarily got paper wealth, but your business does well. And those guys are still paying £100,000, £200,000 a year in taxes, and they're falling below the radar of all of this reporting. But they're the people that we're seeing leave as well. So
and they could keep much, if not all, of that.
Yeah. So we often see people where, say, for instance, if I'm a tax advisor, or you sell your time for money, basically some kind of consultancy. Well, you just stop doing that via a UK business. You set up a new company overseas where you've got 0% corporation tax. So long as you live in the UK, you keep 100% of your income.
Well, let's get into that a little bit then. So, and I know when we spoke a couple of weeks ago to put this in the diary, a mate of mine was in Dubai, and I think I connected you guys, and he's considering it. And I've got mates looking at Malta, Portugal, Cyprus, different areas. People who would have never looked before.
Yeah.
But the hesitation is, it must be really hard, and the government are going to screw me, and I won't be able to come and see my kids. Tell us through, if I came to you and said, right, Josh, let's do it, I've had enough. Yeah. Take me through a bit of a step-by-step and how hard or easy it is and what the hurdles are or not.
Yeah. So the easiest place to get set up at the minute is Dubai. If you look at places like Monaco, Malta, Cyprus, it's a little bit more, especially Monaco. It's very difficult to get set up in Monaco. You need £500,000 liquid in the bank. You've got to go for interviews. There's a very long, drawn-out process to get set up in Monaco. But somewhere like Dubai, because they want to attract talent at the minute, they want wealthy entrepreneurs, they want business owners, they want these people that are basically just not lazy. They get up in the morning, they're doing stuff. They want them in their country. They make it very simple. So in terms of if you wanted to get started tomorrow, say for instance you're moving to Dubai because it's the easiest, it's literally just a case of most people set up a company that can take 2 or 3 days, and then off the back of that, visas, which takes a week. So within 2 weeks from today, you could have a full Dubai residency, and then literally pack up your bags and go.
And realistically, what's that going to cost me to do that?
Typically, for a single person, you're looking at about £6,000 or £7,000.
And so 6 or 7 grand investment.
Yeah.
I'll probably save that in about a day or a week on tax.
Yeah.
But literally, from that point, my taxation changes.
Yeah, completely changes.
So day one income tax 0.
Yeah, so as soon as you become non-resident, you think, okay, you know what, not come back to the UK, we're non-resident. So in that case, it's where it can get a bit complicated under the split year. So if you leave partway through a tax year, certain types of income can still be taxed, such as dividends. But say, for instance, you're working overseas, paying yourself a salary from your Dubai company, as soon as you start paying that salary, that's tax-free. Same as capital gains. So if you've got a large crypto or a large stock portfolio, you move to Dubai 2 weeks' time, you sell that completely tax-free.
Could you sell it to yourself in Dubai?
You wouldn't be able to sell it to yourself. You could sell it to potentially a company in Dubai and sell it to a Dubai or overseas entity, put it into a trust.
Okay.
There are certain anti-avoidance rules. The biggest one I'll mention now is the 5-year rule. So what I mean by this is, if you say you've got a large company where you've got dividends, you've got £5 million worth of dividends sitting in the bank, HMRC know that you could just become non-resident for 1 tax year, take the full 5 million, come back a year after, happy days, pay no tax. So what they do there is they impose this 5-year rule that states you have to be non-resident for 5 full tax years in order to get those dividends tax-free.
But then you could come back. Wow.
So,
and the other thing we talked about earlier was, you said about 0% income tax as kind of one of the easiest, quickest wins before we get onto all the company stuff. So, and I thought, but I'm not stupid. I not tax evasion, but tax avoidance. I don't want to take a big salary. I don't need to take a big salary because I don't have a lot of expense outside of what is already owned by me or covered by me. So I minimise my income to what I need. So I was like, yeah, but I don't pay too much tax relatively on that now. But you made the really good point that most people on businesses are often minimising their income because they know they'll get screwed on the tax. But if you're paying no tax, you can optimise your income so you get that money out of the business without paying tax. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. So in the UK, it's almost a state of oppression, suppression, because you live out of fear. Most limited company business owners, directors, you don't want to pay that income tax. The corporation tax, obviously it's got quite high now and almost unmanageable, but previously it was a pretty decent expense in terms of 19%. It was reasonable as far as taxes go. So most directors, you just took the minimum amount out of your company, 50,000, company car, life's good, you're not paying too much, but you end up kind of reducing your lifestyle to fit that £50,000 that you typically take because you don't want to get hammered by taxes. So you just live in kind of suppressing
leave it in the business, leave it in the business,
keep delaying it, keep suppressing your lifestyle and basically how you're living your life now out of fear of paying those taxes. Whereas as soon as you look at this international tax, it just flips it. Pretty much, if you make £100,000 a month, that goes straight into your personal bank account if you're in Dubai.
Right.
So you don't pay any taxes, and you
this
can
is
just
why
build
everyone
that wealth.
goes around in G-wagons and shit because they can afford to.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a case of what we say to our client. Well, it's even what we just say to people generally is, if you move to Dubai, you can either double your lifestyle or work half as much.
Yeah.
And that's powerful when you look at it like that. You're not doing anything different. You can either work half as much literally because of the taxes, or you can spend twice as much.
So less than 10 grand, you could help them set up over there.
Yeah.
It could be done in a couple of weeks. Tell us about what it's like is it expensive to live there, to rent a flat, to rent a house, to buy a house? Tell us about the cost of actually living in Dubai.
Yeah, I'd say the cost is actually pretty similar to London rates. Effectively, that's the best place to compare it to. You can do Dubai on a kind of a cheap average level, and of course with Dubai you can take it to the moon in terms of how expensive lifestyle can be. But to give you an idea, I've got a 2-bed flat over there. I'm paying about £35,000 a year rent. 2-bed flat right in downtown, birds views. So it's a pretty nice area as far as things going. That's what you'd pay living somewhere decent in London. Yeah. Your living expenses, most of the time you're going out for dinners, £50 for a meal out. It's not too far off the prices in London, even just the way things have gone up in the UK. Since I moved out there about 2.5 years ago, coming back now, I think actually the UK's got very expensive. Yeah. But that inflation hasn't followed through in Dubai. So actually, when you go out there, it's quite easy to be shocked that it's not that expensive. Real estate's expensive at the minute, getting a nice apartment, but the day-to-day living, petrol prices, I think it's about 30p a litre.
Jesus Christ. It's like £1.50 here or something, isn't it? But a big expat community, where, tell us about who your main kind of network is now over there in terms of day-to-day.
Yes, there's a massive community, even just on both levels. So in terms of expats that have moved over there, one of my favourite places in Dubai, it feels like you're in England almost, where everyone's there with their golden retrievers and Labradors. Oh, right. Everyone's having a roast dinner outside in the 30-degree sunshine, nice English, like kind of Irish music playing and things like that. And it honestly feels like you're in England, but better.
And which part of Dubai is this?
That's Duck Hook in Dubai Hills. That's a very nice area to live. Loads of good villas there. You can buy a villa there for a couple of million, and it's a very nice place on a beautiful golf course. But then do
you need the cash, or can you get mortgages and stuff out there?
Yeah, you can absolutely get mortgages. So you can typically get 75% loan to value mortgages out there, similar to the UK.
So I haven't heard any downside. If you had to find some negative, because we're trying to be balanced here, what's the downside?
It's too hot sometimes.
Yeah, but everywhere's aircon.
Yeah, exactly. And a friend of mine mentioned, I'd rather risk. We was talking about living in Dubai compared to the UK. He said, I'd rather the risk of sunburn than the risk of getting stabbed in the UK.
Well, you've been there for 3 or 4 years. You're fair skinned and fair haired, and you managed, didn't you? So,
the thing about Dubai is, not many people. You don't spend the full year there. And that's because you live in Dubai, you don't have to spend the full year. And that's often what a lot of people don't understand is, because you're not paying those taxes, it creates massive freedom in your life. Because of the financial aspect of not paying those taxes, you've got a lot more disposable income. Yeah. So during kind of July, August, September, Dubai is empty because everyone there's they're not paying taxes. So they're in Marbella, they're in Mykonos, they're jetting all over the world and having that summer holiday when Dubai's too hot. So many people say Dubai's too hot, but no one's there to experience it.
And So in regards to that, then tell us a little bit about a typical week for you. Are you working UK hours because you're advising a lot of UK people? You work 5 days, you work 7 days. I know you're an entrepreneur. Tell us about a week in the life of Josh Tharby in Dubai.
Yeah, so it depends if I'm in a growth season, yeah, we'll be working 5-6 days a week, usually UK hours. But the good thing about that is you kind of get the morning to yourself. So 3 or 4 hour time difference, which gives you a chance to get up, read a book for a little bit, go to the gym, all that kind of good stuff, before working from about midday in Dubai, which is 9 o'clock UK time, up until about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening.
Okay, cool.
And in terms of kind of what the typical week looks like, usually it's a case of meeting clients in the UK, in Dubai, coming from the UK, helping them get their company set up. So what we do is actually, when clients have visa appointments, literally pick them up, take them to the appointment. They're not left kind of wandering in the dark themselves as to what we should be doing in this foreign country. It's actually, I'm going to take you to this appointment. This is what you've got to do, X, Y, Z.
And of course, if I decided I wanted a bit of a break in Dubai, I could set up a meeting with you and expense the break.
Exactly that.
So tell us how many, so that people are aware, because people say, you can only come back 90 days or is it 180 days? It's like, what are the restrictions once you are a Dubai resident to your access to or entry into the UK?
Yeah, so it does depend on the number of ties you've got to the UK. If you've still got a UK home, in some cases you can spend up to 182 days in the UK and be non-tax resident.
And what would be those cases?
So if your main home was in the UAE, if you didn't have a UK home, so every time you come here you stayed in a hotel effectively, if that's the case, you could potentially be in the UK for 182 days.
And when you say a hotel, that can be an Airbnb.
Yeah, hotel,
expensive.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a travel lodge. It could be.
You could do a 1 month let or.
Yeah,
whatever.
It could be a nice Airbnb.
Yeah.
And in those cases, we literally speaking to a client last week doing their planning, and they wanted to come back. They've got businesses here, so we enabled it so they could come back 182 days. 183 days in Dubai, so they paid tax in Dubai at 0%.
And I guess the way my mind goes, if you owned a property that was in trust, that was Airbnb, you could always rent that property for 3 months, 6 months, whenever you're out and stuff. Is that fair?
But potentially, that's where HMRC might have an issue with that and potentially class it as a tie. If you've got a property and you're letting it basically using it from your own trust, they might still count that.
Yeah.
But in that cases, even with a property here in the UK, you can still potentially come back 120 days for a lot of people.
So you help someone become a Dubai resident, let's say, or you if they decide I don't want Dubai, I want Cyprus, and that you'll work with them to help them facilitate wherever they want to go, and then after that you're there as an advisor. If Josh, I need to go to the UK, I want to go to this, or I want to bring my kids, or what can I do? You're there and you work with them do you do a fixed annual fee, or is it just as needed?
Yeah,
or do you do their accounts for them to protect them? Or
yeah, usually a mix of all of that. So we always say to people, actually, getting set up overseas is the easy bit. But HMRC, they've got their claws in you and they don't want you to leave. So the first thing is actually navigating how to leave the UK successfully, looking at assets, considering the number of days you're allowed in the UK. Then off the back of that, most people will still have UK accounting obligations. Most people, if you've got property, businesses, still got to do a self-assessment. Then we help them with that on an annual basis as well.
Right, cool. What have you learned in the last 3 or 4 years that would have made you approach it differently 3 years ago or 4 years ago when you were considering it?
I think I wish I'd have done it sooner. That's the only thing I could. If I could go back in time and do this a lot sooner, then yeah, that's 100%. That would be the biggest thing I'd change.
And you obviously haven't got a crystal ball, but you're keeping close to these things. In 4 weeks or so, the government are going to bring in a budget.
Yeah.
Probably soon by the time we put the podcast out, so it could be within days. What do you think they will do to try to close down some of these routes? And I mean, I've heard horror stories like if you try to leave, they're going to treat your whole asset base and charge capital gains. And
that's definitely one thing that they could realistically do. You've got a similar regime in France that's been introduced in 2011, and that's.
They're literally imprisoning.
Yeah, it's a case of the way it would work. There's already an exit regime in place for companies. So if you've got a limited company and you migrate, what will happen is all of the assets of that company basically treated as being sold at full market value the date that company leaves the UK. So what that creates is a massive dry capital gains tax bill. You've not got
we're in a high entrepreneurs relief period at the minute. I sold big business when it was only 10%, but and it was up to like 20 million or something. So it's changed.
Whereas now you've just got the 1 million, and that might not even apply. So when they might say that actually when you sell your businesses because you're becoming non-resident, you might even get entrepreneurs relief. They could definitely put that in there. And what that would do for a lot of people is basically keep them in the UK. Because if you've got properties, buy-to-let properties, trading businesses, if you're having a potentially 20 or 24% capital gains tax bill on this massive uplift, most people's wealth is usually in their business. And actually, the business might not have cash, you've not got the cash personally to pay it. So if you've started that business for £1 million, it's now for a pound, it's now worth 10 million, you could have a 2.4 million or £2 million tax bill on that if you just wanted to leave the country, which would effectively leave you stuck.
And so if I said, I'm sick of the government raping me for beyond what is reasonable, but I don't really want to live abroad yet, is there any in-betweens? I mean, I see on social media, which I don't trust at all, but things that say, set up an LLC in another country and move your assets to there. And are there, if I said, Josh, give me some tax advice where I can significantly aid or reduce my tax bills, but I don't want to live abroad. Is there an in-between?
There's not. So especially with that, it's easy to set up overseas, but actually HMRC have their clause in so deep that if you were to set up a business in Dubai tomorrow, for instance, but run that business from the UK, they would argue that because you're running that business from the UK, that company in Dubai is actually subject to corporation tax here in the UK.
So how do you manage where you're running your tax advisory from Dubai, but you have a UK accountancy business? Are they two very separate businesses?
Yeah, so I have two very separate businesses. So the UK accountancy business, still a limited company, registered in the UK, and fundamentally, the profits of that are still subject to corporation tax. Of course, I take out a salary for the work that I do, and that's tax-free in Dubai.
So you charge them as an expat from Dubai?
Yeah.
So because you're doing that, you're not paying tax on that salary, even though it's coming out of a UK business.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, and that's completely tax-free to me personally, reduces the profits of the limited company in the UK, which means there's corporation tax. But fundamentally, because that UK business is still established in the UK, we've still got UK clients, it's easier for me to leave that here. There's still some corporation tax to pay on that. But then anything we do in Dubai, that's completely tax-free.
Brilliant. And you obviously love Dubai. Where else are you seeing people moving at the minute? Where's the most attractive and what are the reasons? So, for instance, if I was thinking about it, I mean, Dubai is beautiful, it's perfect, it's clean, it's safe, but it's fucking hot and it's 6 hours away or whatever. Yeah. Whereas, say, Portugal's 2 hours away, Cyprus 4 hours away. Tell me the sort of B's and C's of the main countries where you see people from the UK moving.
I think Thailand is a big one at the minute.
Right, okay.
They're not necessarily got a good corporation tax regime, but you can essentially make it so that it's tax-free living in Thailand. The way it works is if you're basically resident in Thailand, dividends that you take are only taxable if you bring them to the country in the year that they're declared. So what that means in practice is you bring that money in, physically bring the cash dividend in the year after, completely tax-free. Oh. So for a lot of people, it's a mix of having a Dubai company living in Thailand, and that whole structure, when you put that together, is completely tax-free living in Thailand.
Wow.
So that's definitely one that we're seeing a lot of. Thailand is very popular. Malta as well is a good option. Because
what's the Malta scenario?
So with the Malta scenario, I think it's about 4 or 5% flat rate tax.
Okay, and they even drive on the same side of the road?
Drive on the same side of the road. And the good thing about that as well is you can potentially get your EU passport. After living there for 5 years, you can actually get that EU passport, so you've not got a queue when you're coming back into the UK and for Europe.
And so, I mean, I like Malta. Proximity, weather, everything else. If I went there in a few months' time, what would be the kind of cost of that? Is it similar, or does it take longer?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot longer, a lot more rigorous. Because with Malta, you actually have to prove a living there, usually get an apartment beforehand, go for a couple of different interviews. It's a lot more rigorous process. You're probably looking at 1 or 2 months to get set up in Malta compared to weeks for Dubai.
Right. And cost-wise?
Yeah, pretty similar cost-wise.
And number of days I could come back?
That would be the same, yeah. So with the UK side of things, that's the same regardless of where you live. It's the number of days.
So the one I hadn't heard of before was the Spanish one. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so they've got the Beckham law over in Spain, and it was established for David Beckham. Effectively, he was one of the first people to use the scheme, where basically your overseas income that you get isn't taxed in Spain. So dividend income that you earn, which most entrepreneurs will be getting, that's tax-free if you can get under this special tax treatment in Spain.
Do you have to buy that? Or?
You have to apply for it, and they only give it to certain people. You've got to show that you're a special person, you're a talented person, and actually you're adding value to the country by being there.
But I guess if you're taking a lot of wealth and you're going to be employing people or spending money or buying stuff.
Yeah, as long as you're doing that, you can tick those boxes, you can get in on that.
Cool. So if you were talking, if one of the people listening was now thinking, I'm going to look further in that, how would they contact you? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, so if anyone's looking for more information on this, check out the YouTube channel. That's definitely a good one. We've got tons of free information on there.
So just go onto YouTube, put Josh Tharby.
Josh Tharby, there'll be tons of information all about overseas tax and what they can start doing now. But then if you want to start working together or actually have a consultation, it's just jsmtax.com.
Thanks, Josh. I hope you enjoyed that. My brain is racing. I'm thinking about, should I move? I love the UK. I've always wanted to stay in the UK, and I've always enjoyed, believe it or not, paying good tax for the UK to make it a better place to live. The tipping point have come. Labour, two-tier Keir or three-gear Keir are now taking stuff that has took it beyond a point of comfort. If you kill the golden geese, it will stop laying eggs, and I'm sick of laying eggs for that to be abused, used, and just taken to people who are lazy or don't want to pay their way. Let me know your thoughts, because I am interested. Drop us a line. And if you've enjoyed today's podcast, like, subscribe, share, and we look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Success is a System.